I still remember the moment the legend took hold of me. Picture a cold, misty dawn on a 9th century battlefield somewhere in England. The Viking shield wall stands firm, but then a small group of warriors steps out. No armor, bare-chested or wrapped in bearskins, bodies already shaking with uncontrollable energy. Their eyes are wild, foam drips from their mouths, and they bite the rims of their shields until with splinters. Then they charge like animals possessed, howling, unstoppable, cutting through enemies as if pain and fear no longer exist. These were the Berserkers, the most terrifying warriors of the Viking Age. My name is Narrator, and for years I chased the truth behind their rage. What I discovered shattered everything I thought I knew. The story you've heard about them eating magic mushrooms is wrong. The real substance, the real ritual, and the real bloodline are far darker and closer to us than anyone imagined. Let me take you there. Imagine the battlefield again. Axes flashing, the air thick with salt and blood. Those bare-chested berserkers leading the charge with superhuman fury. Their bodies tremble before the fight even begins. They foam at the mouth. They feel no pain. This wasn't myth. This was pharmacology wrapped in ritual. To understand them, we go back to the sagas. In the firelight of Icelandic longhouses, scribes wrote down stories passed through generations. Snorri Sturluson in the Ynglinga saga described warriors who fought without mail, as strong as bears or wild bulls, immune to fire and iron. They howled like wolves and protected kings. The word berserker itself, bear shirt or bear shirt, tells us they sometimes wore pelts, sometimes fought almost naked, defying the cold and the enemy. In the court of King Harald Fairhair, these men stood closest to the throne. Elite shock troops, valued in war, feared in peace. After battles, they would collapse for days, dangerous even to their own families. The sagas describe uncontrollable rages that could last hours or days. Something real was happening inside their bodies. For 2 centuries, the official explanation was the fly agaric mushroom, that bright red and white toadstool of fairy tales. A Swedish theologian in 1784 made the connection to Siberian shamans, and the story stuck. It looked perfect on paper, but when you look closer, it falls apart. Imagine a man eating that mushroom. Instead of rage, he gets nausea, vomiting, heavy sedation, loss of coordination. He lies down in a trance, not charging into battle. The chemistry doesn't match. Muscimol and ibotenic acid calm the nervous system. They don't ignite it. No historical battle account describes berserkers vomiting or stumbling before combat. The mushroom theory was beautiful but wrong. Now picture the real plant. Black henbane growing wild across Scandinavia. Tall stalks, pale yellow flowers with purple veins, tiny black seeds. Its alkaloids, hyoscyamine and scopolamine, create exactly the symptoms the sagas describe: violent agitation, terrifying hallucinations, racing heart, dry mouth leading to foaming, dissociation from pain, and total exhaustion afterward. This is the drug that fits. Watch a warrior consume the carefully prepared dose given by a ritual specialist. His body begins to shake. His eyes glaze. Hallucinations flood in. Bears, spirits, enemies already dead. Pain disappears. He becomes a machine of pure rage. He charges. He fights with impossible strength. Then, when the battle ends, he collapses, drained for days. The match is almost perfect. In 1977, archaeologists opened a grave at Fyrkat Ring Fortress in Denmark. Inside a wagon burial lay a high-status woman from around 980 AD. Silver toe rings, a ritual wand, a bronze bowl, and most importantly, a leather pouch containing hundreds of henbane seeds. She was likely a volva, a powerful seeress who traveled between communities, performed ceremonies, and prepared substances for warriors and rituals. Picture her in the longhouse firelight, grinding seeds, mixing the dose with precision. Warriors kneeling before her, receiving the henbane sacrament before battle. This wasn't random drug use. It was an organized system, botany, ritual, and warfare combined. The berserkers were not outsiders or foreigners. Ancient DNA from Viking warrior graves shows they were local Norwegian and Swedish men from ordinary farming families. They came from the same bloodlines that built the longships and settled Iceland. After the battles, many went home, married, had children. The institution of berserker gang ended with Christianization. Laws banned it, the old rituals faded. But the genes did not disappear. Imagine the genetic line stretching across centuries. A Viking warrior skeleton slowly dissolving into the face of a modern Norwegian man walking the streets of Oslo or standing by a fjord. Their blood still walks among us. Think about the ritual again. The volva preparing the pouch of seeds. The warrior swallowing the dose as the longship approaches enemy shores. The shaking beginning. The world turning red. The charge. The foam. The axes swinging. The enemy lines breaking in terror. After Christianization, the practice was outlawed. The sagas preserved the memory, but the real mechanism was forgotten until archaeology and toxicology brought it back. This changes how we see the Viking Age. They weren't just brave raiders. They had a sophisticated system using local plants to create elite warriors on demand. A blend of science, spirituality, and combat doctrine that gave them an edge for 3 centuries. The fly agaric myth was easy to sell, colorful, magical, visually striking. The real story with henbane is messier, more powerful, and grounded in actual evidence. Seeds and graves, matching toxicology, genetic continuity. I often stand by a Norwegian fjord at sunset and wonder, what did it feel like when the henbane took hold? The fear leaving your body, the power flooding in, knowing you might not come back the same, knowing your descendants would still carry that potential centuries later. The berserkers never truly vanished. Parts of them remain in the people of Norway and beyond. Their rage was temporary. Their legacy is permanent. Stand with me on the edge of a quiet Norwegian fjord at twilight. The water is still, reflecting the last light of a blood-red sun. The wind carries the faint scent of pine and salt. In this peaceful landscape, it's hard to imagine the thunder of shields and the howls of men driven beyond human limits. Yet their blood still flows here. In the tall, strong frames of modern Norwegians, in the quiet intensity you sometimes see in their eyes, in the genetic threads that connect the Viking Age to the present day without a single break. We have proof now. Ancient DNA doesn't lie. Those same local Scandinavian lineages that produced farmers, sailors, and berserkers 1,000 years ago are still dominant in Norway, Sweden, and parts of Iceland and Britain. The wild, uncontrollable fury is gone, tamed by time, law, and Christianity. But the biological foundation remains, a reminder that the line between civilization and primal force has always been thinner than we like to admit. This is the story science revealed when we finally stopped repeating old romantic guesses and started digging in the dirt and in the DNA. From blood-soaked battlefields where axes sang, to sterile laboratories where genomes are decoded under cold fluorescent lights. From smoky Icelandic longhouses where sagas were first spoken, to high-tech sequencing machines that read the silent stories written in ancient bones. The truth we uncovered is raw, messy, and far more incredible than the pretty fairy tale myth of warriors simply eating colorful mushrooms. Henbane, ritual specialists, carefully dosed pharmacology. Local boys turned into temporary monsters for the glory of kings and the terror of their enemies. A sophisticated system lost for nearly 1,000 years, now resurrected through archaeology, toxicology, and genetics. And it makes you wonder, deeply, what other secrets our ancestors left buried, waiting for us to uncover them. What other powers did they harness that we dismissed as legend? What forgotten knowledge sleeps in unmarked graves, in overlooked plant seeds, in the DNA of ordinary people walking among us right now? Perhaps the real magic was never supernatural. It was profoundly, beautifully human. Our endless, restless drive to push the limits of body and mind, to turn fear into fury, weakness into overwhelming strength, and the certainty of mortality into something that echoes across countless generations. The berserkers remind us that we are still the same species we have always been. Capable of breathtaking destruction on the battlefield and of quiet, stubborn continuity in everyday life. Capable of both the howl and the lullaby, the axe and the cradle. So the next time you look at a calm, modern Scandinavian face, perhaps on a train in Oslo, fishing by a fjord, or simply walking through a snowy forest. Remember the shadow that walks silently behind it. Remember the foam on the lips, the uncontrollable shaking before battle, the primal howl that froze enemies in their tracks, and the unbreakable will that refused to acknowledge pain or defeat. The rage has slept for 1,000 years, but the blood has not forgotten. It flows quietly now, civilized, channeled into different wars. The wars of innovation, exploration, and endurance. I often think about the women too, the volvas, the unseen architects of that power. They were not mere herbalists.